The fourth stage. Then Christian headed out, but discretion, piety, charity, and prudence decided they would go with him to the foot of the hill. So they walked on together while reiterating their former discussions on their way to the bottom of the hill. Christian said, "While it was difficult coming up the hill, so far as I can see, it is even more dangerous going down." "Yes," Prudence agreed, "so it is. For it is a hard matter for a man to go down into the valley of humiliation, as you are doing now, without slipping along the way. It is for this reason that we decided to accompany you down the hill." So they continued together down the hill, and though Christian walked very carefully, he still slipped a time or two. Then I saw in my dream that when Christian and his good companions reached the bottom of the hill, his companions gave him a loaf of bread, a bottle of wine, and a cluster of raisins, and said farewell to him, and he went on his way. While Christian was among his godly friends, their precious words offered plenty of amends for all his grief, and when they let him go, he was clad with northern steel from top to toe. But it didn't take long for Christian to be hard pressed in this valley of humiliation. He had only gone a little way before he spotted a foul fiend coming across the field to meet him. The fiend's name was Apollyon, which means destroyer. Fear filled Christian. His mind raced to figure out what to do. Should he go back or stand his ground? As he considered his options, he thought about retreating, but he had no armor for his back. If he ran away and turned his back to the fiend, it might give his foe a greater advantage, making it easier to pierce him with his darts. So Christian determined to stand his ground and risk confrontation with the enemy. He was out of time, and it was the best thing to do. So he continued on, and Apollyon met him. The monster was hideous and clothed with scales like a fish. They were his pride. He also had wings like a dragon, feet like a bear, and out of his belly spewed fire and smoke, and his mouth was like the mouth of a lion. When he came up to Christian, he eyed him with disdain and began to question him. The fiend asked, "Where did you come from? And where are you going?" Christian swallowed his fear and said, "I have come from the city of destruction, which is the place of all evil, and I am going to the city of Zion." "From destruction, you say? Then that means you are one of my subjects, for all that country is mine. You see, I am its prince and god." Apollyon's eyes narrowed. "So how is it then that you have run away from your king? If it wasn't for my plans for you to serve me more, I would strike you to the ground with one smashing blow right now for such an act." Christian stood his ground. "I was indeed born in your dominion, but your service was hard, and your wages such as a man cannot live on. For the wages of sin is death." Romans 6:23. So when I reached adulthood, I did what thoughtful people do. I looked for a way that I might perhaps improve myself. Apollyon looked down on Christian with eyes hooded with pride. No prince worthy of his title releases his subject easily, and I am no different. I am not ready to let you loose as yet, But since you have complained about your service and wages, let me encourage you to go back home. I personally promise that what our country can afford, I will give you." Christian shook his head. "I can't do that. You see, I have already yielded myself to another, even to the King of Princes. How can I, in all fairness, go back with you?" One side of Apollyon's thin upper lip curled. "You have done exactly as the proverb says, exchanged a bad for a worse. However, it is quite common for those who have professed themselves to be his servants to give him the slip after a while and return to me. Do this, and I promise all will be well." Christian stood his ground. "I have given him my faith and sworn my allegiance to him. How can I possibly go back on my word and not be hanged as a traitor? Think about it. You did the same to me, and yet I am willing to forget about it. If you will turn again and go back to destruction," Apollyon responded. Christian raised his palm toward the fiend. "No! What I promised to you happened when I was but an immature youth. Beside that, I regard the prince under whose banner I now stand to be the one able to absolve me of your charges." He let his hand drop and looked Apollyon directly in the eye. "And yes, he is also able to pardon the things I did in service to you. Besides that, oh, destroying Apollyon, to tell you the truth, I like his service, his wages, his servants, his government, his company and country better than yours. So stop trying to change my mind. I am the Lord's servant, and I have made up my mind to follow him." A wisp of smoke curled from Apollyon's nostrils. "That's all well and good, but think of what it will be like when your spirits are low and you have so much to get done." He paused dramatically and raised the bony-looking ridge above his right eye. "You are aware that, for the most part, his servants come to a wretched end because they are transgressors against me and my ways. How many of them have been shamefully put to death, and you consider his service better than mine, even though he has never come from that heavenly place where he is to rescue any of his servants out of their enemies' hands. On the other hand, the world knows I am nothing like that. Look at how many times I have delivered those who faithfully served me, either by my power or by the use of fraudulent schemes, even when they were taken by him and his followers. And so will I rescue you in the same way, Christian." "You don't understand," Christian said. "His present restraint in delivering them is deliberate and with purpose. It is to test their love and prove whether they will be loyal to him to the end. And as for the shameful end you say is their destiny, that isn't an end, for they are assured of receiving future glory. In fact, they don't expect deliverance now. Instead, they are content to wait for their future glory, and they will have it when their prince comes in his glory along with the angels."